Ladies, gentlemen, and Haradrim of all ages, one of the biggest challenges in the entirety of Diablo 4 is the Uber Lilith boss fight, the Echo of Hatred capstone activity that is intended to only be done at level 100, even if some people that were abusing exploits have done it maybe a little bit earlier than that. This is the hardest, mostly single target fight in the entire game. It has so much health and does an insane amount of damage as well as having a number of actual boss mechanics that you have to actively dodge unless you're playing an insanely tanky build. As a result, the way that people are killing this boss with each class is actually really cool to see, in my opinion, and so today, now that we are in patch 1.04 in this new version of the game, I thought it would be good to take a fresh look at what the fastest kills are of this mega boss for each class and give you an updated ranking of which class is the fastest at doing it, as well as talking a little bit about the builds and strategies that they use to achieve this. First up, as a point of reference, every class here uses boots that give you bonus dodge charges except for one, which we'll talk about in more detail, but generally this is important as this fight has a bunch of important dodgeable mechanics, so having multiple dodge charges because of your boots just makes it way safer than any other innate boot affix. Without further ado then, let's dive in at number 5 with Barbarian. Ever since they fixed these strange interaction exploits that Barb was using with Whirlwind and Edgemaster's aspect a couple of weeks back to hit for over 100 million with Whirlwind ticks in this fight, Barb has dropped off a bit of a cliff here. Of course, that was clearly an exploit, and I don't count exploits towards the actual kill rankings, and so the new best build Barb is using for this is actually Hammer of the Ancients. The current fastest time as of literally yesterday is 2 minutes and 6 seconds from user Huxley, and a lot of this is just sort of getting enough survivability to not get destroyed while also playing around with the Hoda crits and the strange hitbox of the aspect of Ancestral Force for Barbarians. This aspect adds a shockwave on Hammer of the Ancients, and for whatever reason, if you specifically hit an enemy with the edge of this shockwave instead of the hammer itself, it does more damage. The devs seem pretty convinced this isn't a bug, but they were also quite vague about it, so it's entirely possible this could get nerfed in the future, but the only real Barb kills of Uber Lilith at this point are the Whirlwind exploit, which of course we don't count, and the Hoda kills. But the reason this one is almost 3 times as fast as even the other Hoda kills is that it uses only 2 shouts, Call of the Ancients as an ultimate as well, Steel Grasp to apply vulnerable and give you more berserking, then they have the Rage of Harrogath chest unique equipped and use Flay as their basic skill to just repeatedly activate the cooldown reductions by applying bleed to Lilith with Flay itself. It's actually a pretty ingenious way of reworking the Hammer of the Ancients build specifically to apply to this one fight, and it actually brings Barb right around the same kill times as all the other classes, so even though this is still in last place as far as fastest kill for each class, it is still more than strong enough to be really genuinely impressive nonetheless. In 4th place then is actually the Sorcerer, which is pretty nuts to me, because it's the exact same strategy really that shot Sorcerer up into 1st place a couple of weeks ago, but a slightly faster time just from having stronger stats on gear and also a slightly tighter timing on the gear swapping. This comes from Ukrainian and it is a 1 minute 58 second kill, which is incredibly quick, and the strat here, which originally came from North War, but this player adjusted it just a little bit, is a heavy blizzard build with CC buildup out the wazoo. Then swapping items as the stun is about to proc to use the aspect of control on a 2-handed weapon instead of using a 1-handed and offhand for faster CC application, and then the aspect of retribution for tons of bonus damage while Lilith is staggered. There's nothing particularly different about this setup, just stronger gear, better stats, and a faster reaction time on the gear swapping, which tightens the timing window. The result of this is simply a faster kill by a pretty decent margin. Next up we have 3rd place, which is Rogue. What I find really interesting though about this is that the Sorcerer build that was 1st place 2 weeks ago has not gotten any weaker, it's even gotten a faster kill time, but other classes have just found ways to speed up the fight and simply overtaken it, which is nuts. Our Rogue kill here is about 1 minute and 57 seconds, literally just the tiniest bit ahead of the Sorcerer kill, and that comes from Chai Latte. This is the classic concept used by rogues for this fight of poison imbuement, twisting blades, stacking on top of the poison puddle legendary aspect, just applying poison after poison to really stack up the damage over time, but with a combination of better stats on gear than the other rogue kills that I've seen, and also using the Penitent Greaves unique boots for an even further damage bonus. Basically just forgoing a bit of survivability in order to boost the damage specifically in an effort to get a speedier kill. As a result, they managed to push this build even further and drop its kill time all the way down to 117 seconds, which is an immense feat to say the least. Then in 2nd place, we actually now have the Druid, which is incredibly interesting for a couple of reasons. First up, a couple of weeks ago, there were genuinely no legit Druid kills of Uber Lilith that you could find just anywhere. The only kills that were out there at that point were exploits with Poison Werewolf, where the Blurred Beast aspect was stacking incorrectly with Toxic Claws, but Blizzard removed that exploit pretty quickly. That build stopped being able to do Uber Lilith as a result of that. Then, though, patch 1.03 happened a week ago, they actually buffed Poison Werewolf conceptually a pretty massive amount, adding in buffs for Shred, and a pretty big buff to the Blurred Beast aspect too, which which actually brought this build back from the dead as an Uber Lilith killer, but without any exploits. Today's kill is from Creepjacker, who managed to kill the boss in 1 minute and 42 seconds, an absolutely insanely quick time. The main thing that causes this to function is the interaction between Toxic Claws, which makes crits with werewolf skills apply a percent of their damage as poison over 4 seconds. This player has bonus ranks of that on their amulet as well, which makes these crits apply up to 45% of their base damage as more poison buildup. The aspect of the Blurred Beast does not consume the poison that it uses for its damage. It does a big pop of damage when you dash to a target with Shred, dealing up to 100% of their current poison damage. The neat interaction here is that if this also crits, if that hit crits, then it applies the damage as poison because of Toxic Claws stacking on top of the poison that was already there. Then you can keep this up over and over and over and over to stack increasingly higher poison on Lilith. But the real cherry on top of this here is actually the Stormclaws aspect being used on the amulet. This makes critical hits with Shred do up to 45% of their damage as lightning damage too around the target, but that is as a base damage number. That number can then also crit itself. So if you have high crit chance, high crit damage, Shred can do all of the poison built up on an enemy as damage, crit to reapply 45% of that poison on top of it with Toxic Claws, stacking on top of the original poison that it got the damage from. Then it can also cause a lightning proc from Stormclaw, which hits for 45% of that combined damage, and if that lightning then crits, it also does 45% of that damage as further poison application. Repeat this process over and over, and the poison just gets bigger and bigger, so the Shred gets stronger as a result, and so does the Stormclaw proc. As far as I can tell, after tons of research, this is not a bug. This is just the way that this works after the changes that they made in 1.03, and when there was a bug to this build very early on in the game. So I am of course counting this kill. I think it's legit. That said, just in case it does come up in the future that there was actually some sort of bug being abused here, as opposed to the last time that we did an Uber Lilith kill ranking, Druid does actually have kills with non-poison builds now. The fastest one currently is this one with the Tornado Werewolf build from Zelelx, I guess, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, I'm sorry if I am, who completed the fight in 3 minutes and 25 seconds, which is still a really good time, putting the Druid at 4th place if we don't count the poison build. But again, as far as I can tell, the poison build works how it is actually intended to work now. They even buffed it in 1.03 to make it reach this point, and it is now actually only able to do what it can in this specific fight because Uber Lilith is a single target boss with a really massive health bar, which lets you stack these things ridiculously in a way that you can't anywhere else in the game. So I think it's completely legit as a 102-second kill, which is a very fast time. Finally then, in first place, we have the new fastest Necromancer kill, which just completely outclasses everything. Bone Shards and Bone Spear has been known as the general strongest Necromancer setup for everything outside of tier 100 Nightmare Dungeons for quite a while now. It is not a new concept by any means, but this kill from Skulm, which is quite clearly a scarily accurate Necromancer name, gets the kill in 1 minute and 36 seconds, edging out the Druid by a few seconds to claim the fastest clear of this fight at this particular moment in time. This essentially just takes advantage of high crit chance and high crit damage multipliers in a tiny arena, which lets the bounces of these ability actually hit the boss in significant amounts, causing a lot of damage buildup. Using Deathless Visage as well to add a sort of shockwave effect to Bone Spear itself, the aspect of Grasping Veins to increase both crit chance and crit damage after using Corpse Tendrils, as well as Bone Storm for even more crit chance. This is essentially just a version of this build that forgoes any and all defense outside of Disobedience and the aspect of Might in order to really just pump out as much damage as it physically can. The result of this is a 96-second Uber Lilith kill, which is genuinely insane when you consider how much of a challenge this boss actually is. I mean, try it for yourself. You will see what I mean. The funny thing is that Necro with Bone Spear is the only build that you don't even really have to change from the way that you use it normally for other content in the game in order to just do Uber Lilith in the first place. But as this player is showing, you can of course make some smaller conceptual changes to really specifically give you an advantage in this one particular encounter, resulting in this super impressive time, putting Necromancer at the top of the list. And that's it, everyone. The current rankings of Uber Lilith kill times as of patch 1.04, things have shifted a lot here in the last couple of weeks. More players reaching high level means more people fighting the boss, which means more people testing out changes and variations of pre-existing builds, and the result is simply some incredibly impressive kills on the hardest, mostly single target fight in the entire game. Let me know your thoughts on all of this down below, and of course we have a big balancing patch hitting the game just before Season 1, and with the addition of the Malignant Heart system coming in Season 1, I fully expect that the rankings for Uber Lilith kills will change change dramatically when it comes time to actually look at them on high-level Season 1 characters. So of course we will talk about it again then, if not even before that time if any significant developments happen. I hope you've enjoyed this breakdown, and of course check out all of the lovely people that I mentioned in this video if you want to see their kills in full. Like if you liked the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.